This conference will now be recorded.
So in our previous class, we are working with OBJ Open, right? Using OBJ Open, we can able to pull the data from the particular class. We should be providing the class name. So now we'll just discuss how to use OBJ Open by handle. So OBJ Open by handle is also something similar to OBJ Open only. So the importance of OBJ Open you understood, right? So this is to get the single instance from the class name. We have to provide the class name. Then after we have to provide the class key. Now I was talking about OBJ Open by handle. So OBJ Open by handle is also one of the method which is to pull the single instance from the database table only. So the purpose of these two is same. Ultimately, we will be preferring this one. When we will be preferring this is if we know the unique identifier. For each and everything there will be one unique identifier. Suppose this is the key, right? So this key will be unique identifier in this class. The same kind of key I can able to have it in another class also. Suppose if I have two classes, state as well as the hospital. So in both the tables I can able to have state code as the common thing in both of this. I can able to have like that. So likewise, whatever the key I'm having which seems to be primary, it will be applicable only for that class. Okay, if it is only for that class, then I can able to use OBJ's open. And there will be some other technique called OBJ open by handle, using which I can able to get the single instance by an unique identifier called PzInsKey. So PzInsKey is one unique thing for the every instance. Okay, it might be the database table or the rule or the section rule or the work object. Any kind of instances will be having one unique thing that will be called as an PzInsKey. So the difference between these two will be if you are going for if you want to pull the single instance using OBJ open, initially we have to give the class name, then after we have to give the class key, else it will not be working. But with OBJ open by handle, in order to get the same output, I need not provide the class name or I need not provide the class key. So instead I'll be providing PzInsKey. So PzInsKey will be unique for each and everything. If I just provide PzInsKey, if sample is my PzInsKey, let us say, then this particular sample for this PzInsKey will be there for only one instance. There will not be any PzInsKey with the sample again in my entire organization, in my entire application. So this is how PzInsKey will be defined, and it will be having everything unique. So if I just have like this, then I can able to go for OBJ open by handle, using which I can able to skip the class execution first, class searching first, then after key searching. Okay, so if I'm going for OBJ open, first what it has to do, suppose if I'm having some hundreds of classes, if I have some hundreds of classes, each and every class will be having one class key. That is what we know. And now if I'm using for OBJ open, in order to pull one instance from the one class, then OBJ open has to search for the class name first. Out of this 100 tables, whatever the class name we are giving, initially that class has to be picked up. Okay, so if I'm just giving like states class, so ch dash data dash states. So if I want to pull any record from this data class, what it has to do, first using OBJ open, I have to give the class name. Out of 100 or 200 classes what I have in my entire application, first PRPC has to pick up this class. So initially it has to perform one round of search in order to identify the class name. Once the class has been identified, then it will be again searching for the class key, like state code is equal to AP or anything. It will be again searching for the class key, and from there it will be pulling out the results from this class. So ultimately it is performing two levels of searching. The first level of searching is to find out the particular class out of several classes in my PRPC, and second thing is once the class has been identified, it has to identify the class key. So two level of searching has been happening here. But if we by chance know the PzInsKey of anything, okay, then what we can able to do with the PzInsKey is I can just go for OBJ open by handle, and here I will be giving PzInsKey value something like sample, let us say. Then what it has to do, sample will be there only one in the records, and it has to be pulling that particular record only. For each and every record of course in the states table, if I have hundreds of records, each and everything should be having one PzInsKey for everything, each and every record. So each record will be considered as one instance, right? So if I'm having 100 records in the states table, and for each and every record should be having one PzInsKey. So if I just know the PzInsKey, I can go for obj by open by handle. So in this process, what PRPC will be doing is PRPC will be just checking only one round of searching, and finally it will be pulling out the output. So the disadvantage of this obj open is two level search has to be done, and here only one level search will be done. So performance will be increased. Okay, so wherever possible, if we just know the PzInsKey, then we can able to go for obj open by handle. Now let us understand what is PzInsKey and how it will be looking like. So compare with these two, obj open by handle is preferable. Suppose I'm clicking on this one. What PRPC has to do on clicking on this one, let me click on this. On clicking on this one, PRPC has to internally generate one obj browse query. So using obj browse, it will be pulling out all the results from the database table, and it has to display it here. Okay, here it has to go for obj browse only. Why? Because it has to show the multiple instances, right? Now if I just click on this particular instance, like CHG66, so this is one of the instance. As I told you, each and every instance should be having one unique work object. Sorry, it should be having unique ID that will be considered as a PzInsKey. So for this there will be PzInsKey. For here it will be PzInsKey. We will not be knowing the PzInsKey of this from here. If I just click on this PRPC, instead of performing obj open, if I click on this, ultimately we'll be getting the instance of the single record only. Like CHG66 data only I have to get it finally. So it is like an single instance pulling. So single instance I can able to pull either by obj open or obj open by handle. So PRPC will be always following obj open by handle only for the faster performance. Okay, so that is the thing. Now let me show you how PzInsKey will be looking like, what are all the advantages, how it is getting constructed for each and every instance. So before that, we shall discuss about OOTB properties. So right now we have came across many OOTB properties, right? Suppose if I open this, click on clipboard. So under on the pure page, we'll be having many OOTB properties. Only the first one is what we have created, and rest all we have many OOTB properties. So all the OOTB properties will be starting with px, py, pz. So did we observe the importance of anything this anytime? So all the OOTB properties will be starts with px or py. Here we can able to see we already came across PYID, right? So it will be starting with PY, and it sometimes it will be starting with PZN also. There will be only two properties. So at the last we can able to see something called PzInsKeys or PZ index count. So all the OOTB properties will be starting with PX, PY, PZ. So the same set of properties has to be reflected in the database table also. So for this class, if any table is connected, what are all the properties which are referring to this class? Those are to be considered as the headings to the database table. This is already we know. So in database, we'll be seeing many OOTB column headings, right? Like PYID, PX create start date, PX create operator. So those are all the properties that are being coming from here only. So the importance, what is the importance of PX? What is importance of PY? What is PZ? So this is what we'll discuss now. So PRPC will be maintaining many things under PX, PY, PZ. So what are all the properties which are starting with PX? Okay, those are just for read-only format. Read-only meaning where we should not be changing the data. So if you closely observe, the application name should not be changed, and the application version should not be changed. If I just click on edit also, or if I want to edit this value manually using activities, so you create an activity and perform perform a property set. For that, you try to assign this value with some other value. Okay, so all the properties which are starting with PX, these are completely meant for read only. So it will be maintaining all the work object related data which should not be edited for sure. Okay, so PX created datetime. There will be something called PX created operator name and PX create datetime. So these should not be changed for any reason. Okay, so during processing also PRPC has to store all these values in the database table, and this has to be captured dynamically using system datetime as well as the operator who are creating all this. So the importance of this PX properties is it will be useful for read only, and it should not be edited for sure, and I can able to make use of these properties wherever I want. Wherever I want meaning, suppose if I want to use this create if I want to use this create datetime. Okay, if I want to use this in my user interface, let us say your last login or your recent login, so those kind of things where we can able to get it from. So if I just log into this portal, if I want to show some message like your last login, so there will be websites where we will be showing this, right? So there we'll be using this property only. So what are the property we are using? Saved item, what these are all the OOTB properties. If you want to make use of this property in the display purpose, we can able to use this, but never we cannot never we can edit this one. So that is the importance of PX properties. So PX properties is completely for not only for the system use, we can able to make use of this also. So this should not be editable. We can able to make use of these properties, and there will be some properties starting with PY. So PY properties, we can able to make use of these properties in the UA part, and we can able to make changes also. If you see, there will be one live example is PYID. So PYID by default it will be generated with C dash. Are we making any modifications to this? We are making this to CHG dash. We can able to see it here. All the work object IDs are being updated to CHG dash. The work object ID should be assigned to which property of the database table or the clipboard? PYID, you know. So the live example is PYID. So we can able to make use of these PY properties. Parallelly, we can able to edit these properties also. So the importance of PY properties is we can able to use for the processing, and we can able to edit these as well. But PX values, we can make use of these properties, but we cannot able to edit this. Okay. So there will be something called PZ properties also. Okay, PZ properties also we cannot able to edit, or we will not be using this for read only also. We will not be using for the processing also. So all the PZ properties are completely for the system use. We will not be using it anywhere, and we cannot able to edit also. Okay, so read is not possible, write is not possible. Write means editing. And here for the PX results, read is possible, write not possible. So PX is completely for read only. Read is possible, no write now, right? No write, meaning we cannot able to edit. And py, read is possible as well as write is also possible. Pz, no read, no write. This is completely for system use only. So as I told you, know, PzInsKey is the value which will be holding the primary, I mean it will be holding the unique key for every instance. So this that we will not be using it anywhere. So did we find any the value like PzInsKey used anywhere? We will not be using it, right? So this is completely for the system use only. So we cannot able to edit this, or we cannot able to, we will not be reading this also. Reading meaning we will not be using for the referencing also. So PRPC will be categorizing the properties based on its usage. If it is PX, we can able to read this. We should not be editing. We cannot able to edit this. PY, we can able to read this. We should not be. We can able to write this also. Live example is PYID only. And PzInsKey. So PzInsKey, we will not be reading this, and we will not be writing this also. This is completely for the system usage. We will not be using it anywhere. Okay. So that is the reason. If I just click on edit, so this is the development tool, right? Clipboard is the development thing where we can able to make modifications, right? So that's why all the user created properties as well as the PY properties will be given option to make changes. So PZ properties we cannot able to edit, as well as PX properties also we cannot able to edit. Okay, for the processing only PY properties as well as the user defined properties we can able to edit. So at the last, if we just submit the work object ID, at the last we'll be seeing some message like thanks for giving the input, right? So that is this one. So if you want to make this editable, you can able to edit. Okay, if we can, we can able to use the activities, and we can able to set the new values also using property set. Even that is also possible, and that too it will be done only for PY and the normal user defined properties. PX properties will not be changed for sure, and even PZ properties also will not be changed. PX properties I can able to use it for the processing, and PZ properties will not be using anywhere. Clear? So now we'll discuss about PzInsKey. So what is PzInsKey, why it is important, how it will be storing the unique values. This will be important. In interviews also they will be asking you many questions on PzInsKey. So as I told you, every instance what we are storing in the database. So it might be either work object is an instance, and similarly if I'm trying to create one property is also an instance. So work object is instance of this particular class group, and property will be instance of rule obj property, right? So this is the class which will be holding all the instances of the properties. Okay, if I'm trying to create one property, that will be considered as an instance of this class. If I'm trying to create one section, that will be created as an instance to one class. If I'm trying to create one when rule, it has to be created as an instance. Likewise, everything in PRPC has to be considered as an instance. Instance meaning just like in record in the database table. So whatever we are doing, it has to be stored into the database table as in record, right? Similarly, in PRPC, it has to consider itself as an instance, and it has to be for sure stored into one of the class connected to the table. So all the properties what I'm creating, it will be considered as an instance. So this is one of the instance, this is one instance, this is another instance. Likewise, if we just create any section, it will be created as an instances in one class called rule HTML section. Okay, so if each and every instance should be considered, each and everything should be considered as in one instance of the particular class. This is for the property and this is for the section. Similarly, what is the instance class for when conditions? What is the instance class for data transforms? What is instance class of activities? We cannot able to say. We cannot able to remember for each and everything. For property or flow, for flow action or section. So for few things we can able to remember. But if someone is asking you about the instance class of something like when condition, let us say, or instance class of report definition or instance class of data pages, how can we say we cannot able to remember all this? But in interviews they will be asking you. So wantedly they will be asking you the instance class of what's the instance class of property. That's okay. What's the instance class of activity? Okay. What's the instance class of decision table? What's the instance class of decision tree? So wantedly they will be asking these kind of questions. So why we will not be remembering each and everything for sure. So why still they will be asking you here is you have to understand the concept and we have to just say the trick. So I'll tell you how the trick, how the instance class will be calculated. Okay, so as I was discussing, everything will be considered as an one of the instance. If it is stored in the data table as an instance, it should be having one unique identity. For that, if I'm creating the work object ID, so work object ID is also the instance of the particular class. So if I just click on POR page, at the last we can able to see that PzInsKey is showing it as an, so this is the name of my class, right? And this is the work object ID. I mean the class key, unique value, unique class key. Similarly, let me take the PzInsKey of another class, sorry, another work object. So I'm trying to open any of the random work object ID, and I want to check the PzInsKey of this. If you want to get PzInsKey, we already know that there will be one OOTB property called PzInsKey, and we can able to just check for that. So this is the PzInsKey. Okay. So based on this, what we are trying to understand here is for the work objects. So PzInsKey will be its class name wherever we are creating the work object IDs and the unique class key. So PyID is the unique class key of this particular class group. Similarly, PyID is the unique class key of this class group also. So ultimately here it will be showing the class key, I mean the primary key only, primary key of that particular table or class. So based on this two example, we can able to identify PzInsKey of the work object instance as class group. So this is the class group and its class key. Ultimately, we should be calling this as an instance, instance class. So all the work object IDs are the instances of the class groups, right? So this particular work object ID is the instance of this class. This particular work object ID is the instance of this class. So based on this, PzInsKey we can able to define generically as instance class space class key. Correct? Can I define like this? Both of you agree now? So the definition of PzInsKey will be instance class space class key. Now let me open anything. So for everything, for every work object ID, we'll be having the same thing. So it will be showing the instance class on this particular work object ID should be stored as an instance of this class. That's why this will be called as an instance class, and this will be called as a class key. So finally, the definition of an instance class, sorry, the definition of PzInsKey will be instance class space class key. Interview. These are all interview questions.
Okay, Chandra, I have one doubt. So
Yes.
each and every class have a single instance. Whenever we are running our work object, right? So that time each and every records will be created with the primary ID, right?
If we are creating work object ID, it should be creating one new record in the database table. Correct, no? So it should be creating new record in the database table with the PYID and PZPVStream blob data. So once it is creating new record, it should be considered as an instance in the PRPC also. So if I just click on this, what are all the records? What are the number of records we have in the table? Those will be created like in those many instances. So just to compare the instance with the records only. So this is completely user interface, and that is completely like database table. Okay, there will be one table connected to this class, and there will be these many records stored as an instances there. Okay, suppose if I am creating new work object ID, we will be having only one record insert in the database table. Similarly, there should be only one class, one instance created here. So both are same. Actually, we will be calling this as an instance, and we will be calling that as a record. So in the database table, when it is getting stored, it should be stored with one PzInsKey. Okay, ultimately, what are the properties we are seeing here in the clipboard? So those are to be stored into the database table, no, for sure.
Yeah, it's stored. So then a single class have multiple instance, right?
Yes, with single class, this is a single class. I'm trying to create multiple work object IDs, no? So this is one record, this is another record. Single class can able to have multiple instances. These are the multiple records. So each record will be having one unique thing called PzInsKey. So
Okay,
there will
then
be
each and
PzInsKey for
every
this
time
one.
that the PzInsKey will be changed or it will be in the same number, instance number.
So instance of work object ID number will be unique all the time, right? It will be changing all the time. If I'm trying to create new work object ID, one new ID will be generated. So automatically instance class will be same, right? Unique, right? Okay.
Unique for each records, right?
Yes,
But
unique for each record.
it will be generated for different numbers with the class.
Okay. So
Okay.
if it is getting different number generated automatically, as per the definition of this PzInsKey, unique this will be separate record, and this will be separate record. Suppose if I have same kind of record like this 61. So for the if I'm trying to create two different work object IDs, PzInsKey will be stored as like this one for that record, and PzInsKey for this will be stored like this. Okay, understood? Suppose if you are trying to create the work object IDs from the implementation class, and there also if you are giving work prefix as CHG60 let us say. So even though class key is same, class instance class is getting changed. So all the time these values will not be equal. All the time these values will be different. So for one class, for sure there should not be same work object ID. If it is having same work object ID in two different classes, instance class will be different. So anytime these two will not be different. So PzInsKey will be unique all the time. Agreed?
Yeah, I will.
Okay, now I'll ask you one question. So this is the basic uh, derivation or the definition of the PzInsKey. Now, anyone can answer. Umar Tolani. I'm trying to create one new section. Okay, so how it will be stored? Where it will be stored actually? In which class it will be stored? As I told you,
It
section
is
is
in
the
the framework.
yeah, that's okay. Any of the sections we create, either in the framework or implementation, it has to be stored in its instance class. Instance class here meaning this will not be the instance class for the section or any rule. So this will be the instance class only for the work object IDs. So on clicking on this, what are all the records we are getting? Those will be the instances. Now if I click on this, I will not be getting anything data related to sections or the properties, right? So meaning this class is not the instance class for the section or the properties. Instead, if I click on this, I'll be getting all the instances of the section rules. So meaning this is the class which will be acting like an instance class for the section. Okay, getting my point? Similarly, there is one more class called rule obj property. So this is the class where I can able to get the instances of all the properties. Only by clicking on this, we can able to get the properties list. If we click on here, we'll not be getting the property list. We'll not get the property list by clicking here. So ultimately, this will be the instance class for the properties. On clicking on that, what are all the instances we are creating, we are getting, that will be considered as a particular class or the table connected to that will to hold all these values. Okay. So if I create two sections in my framework work class, if I create two sections, ultimately if that particular section rules what are creating just now, I mean the two rules are to be considered as an instance of this class only, like rule HTML section only. Okay. So their class key will be the ID name, whatever the thing I'm trying to give. So let me explain it. So this is the instance class. If I click on this instance class, I'll be getting all the instances of the particular sections. So here, what will be the class key? This will be the instance class key, instance class, and this will be the key. Key meaning the ID for this. So key meaning this ID only. Okay, got my point? So now if I want to get the PzInsKey of this particular instance, so if I'm trying to create one section rule, for sure it has to be stored into database table, and for sure it has to be stored as an instance to one of the class. So this is the instance of this class. So the PzInsKey of this section rule will be, can someone tell me? Based on this. So what will be the PzInsKey of this section rule? The instance class here will be rule HTML section space class key. What will be the class key? This will be the class key. Clear? This is how we have to derive the PzInsKey. So there will be one table connected to this particular class also. So for each and every table, if it is having instances, it should be having one database table connected to that. And even in the database table, what are all the instances we are seeing here? Those are to be stored as in records there. So for each and every record in the database table, or for each and every instance, there should be one PzInsKey column. That's for sure. Okay. So in order to find the PzInsKey of this particular instance, of this particular section instance, we can able to get the value like this. This is the definition and this is the value. Understood now? Umar Tulani?
Yes.
Suppose you tell me PzInsKey for this now. So this is one of the instance of this class. So now if I want to have the PzInsKey of this particular record or any record, third record. So can you tell me this PzInsKey?
CHG claims dash work space customer search TB.
CHG dash claims. So this is the instance class for this property, correct?
Yeah.
So if I click on this, this is the class you're talking about, right? Both are same, no? Correct, Tulani?
Yeah.
So if I click on this, what are we getting? So meaning this is not the instance class.
Instance
So
class.
how are we getting these results? By clicking on this class, no? So this should be the instance class, right?
Oh, yes.
Similarly, for the section, how are we getting these results? By clicking on one class, this will be the instance class. And similarly, how are we getting all these properties? So this will be the instance class, and this will be our section, I mean key ID.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm.
Now clear now?
Yeah.
Yes.
So now this is not that easy. I'll ask you one more question.
Okay.
Okay. So okay. So can you tell me the instance class of this particular section rule? So this is the section rule, right? Can you tell me the instance class of this?
Instance.
Rule HTML section. Rule dash HTML dash section
Hmm.
space customer details section.
Okay.
Customer detail section. Yes.
So this is the thing you're talking. Okay.
Mm.
So this is okay. Now I'm trying to save as this in the implementation class. Create and open. So can you tell me the class of this? Sorry, I have deleted in the wrong class. Let me delete this. So I'm trying to save it. This is the for this instance class is this one. That's what you told me, right? Now I'm trying to make few modifications.
So I'm going to be able to share my screen. So until then, I understand how this works.
So did you understand what I did? So there is one section which is in the framework work class. I have just to save as this into my implementation class. Got that point what I didn't know? Okay. So for this, what you have told me is PzInsKey will be rule HTML section dash customer details section. Now, can you tell me PzInsKey of this one? You can able to see and tell me. Got my question?
Yeah. So, so the instance class should be the same, right?
So you mean to say that you'll be having the same value, correct?
Yes.
So
So
what's the
then it
definition
won't
of
be.
PzInsKey?
It is
It
unique
should be,
ID.
it should be unique. That's for
Yeah.
sure. Then how are we getting this one? So the thing here is we can able to have the instance class. We can able to have this particular instance in multiple classes also. So for that, PRPC has made few modifications to the PzInsKey definition. So PzInsKey definition should be instance class space rule class space class key. So PRPC had made few modifications and made change the definition of the PzInsKey. So the definition here will be like this one: instance class space class key, rule class space class key. The thing here is instance class will be same all the time for the section. This will not change. What is the rule class? Rule class meaning from where we are calling this rule. Okay, so So now is this unique?
Yeah.
Lani, you also agree?
Yes.
So PRPC has made few modifications to the PzInsKey definition, so that from wherever we are calling this, we'll be including this rule class also. So here now we have to say the PzInsKey of this particular rule should be rule HTML section space this particular class space this one. And for this PzInsKey will be rule HTML section space this particular rule class space this one. So all the time we're getting this value unique. Correct now? So is this applicable for the work object IDs? For work object ID, we are seeing something like this only all the time. So are we getting anything like rule class and instance class? So this both will be same if you observe. Correct now? So instance class is the same one as well as the rule class will be same one. So blindly remember that for work object IDs, PzInsKey will be instance class based class key, and for other rules, the section rule or the property rule, it will be having like this one, other rules. Okay, for other rules, the definition of PzInsKey will be instance class space, class key space, sorry, rule class space, class key. So if this is my definition, my my PzInsKey will be unique all the time, right? If I'm trying to have this section created in the multiple classes also, all the time that class will be changed. So this will be unique all the time. Agreed? Lani, Uma, both of you?
Yes.
Okay, now I'll ask you one more thing. So PzInsKey of this one is this one. This is the, let me delete this. So PzInsKey of this particular rule is this one. You agree with this, right? Correct now?
Yes.
Now I'm trying to just check for the another thing. I'm going for version number 1.
Okay.
So what will be the PzInsKey of this one? So these two I want to compare. So this is the version number 2 and this is version number 1. Likewise, I can able to have some hundreds of versions also. Okay, each and everything will be like in separate instance. So this will be one of the record in this particular class and this will be one of the record in another class. So what is the PzInsKey of this one? If you say the same, then it will not be the main definition of PzInsKey will be violating. So PzInsKey should not be same for any of the two rules. Okay, so the thing here is we have to make few modifications to the definition of the PzInsKey. I'll be including timestamp. I will not be including anything like version. I'll be including timestamp. For sure, two versions will not be having same timestamps. Even if you are creating at a time also, there will be some fraction of seconds difference. So that's why they will be including timestamp at the last. So ultimately, this is the final thing. I will not make any modifications here. So this is the final thing. So PzInsKey of any other rule will be instance class space rule class space class key plus timestamp. So for the version number 2, I'll be having separate timestamp, and for the version number 1, I'll be having another timestamp. So all the time this PzInsKey value will be unique. Correct now? So PzInsKey of the work object ID will be instance class space class key. This will not be changed for sure. And for any other rule, for section or for properties or when conditions or database, anything, data transforms, anything, PzInsKey for any other class, the definition is this one: instance class space rule class space class key space timestamp. If we are creating hundreds of versions of the particular rule also, timestamp will be making difference for each and everything. Okay, so it should be having 100 different PzInsKeys of the particular class. So this is very important. Okay, now clear, right, as of now?
Yeah.
So now I'll ask you one thing. So this is for HTML, sorry, this is for section. We can able to understand this. I told you, no, so you came to know. Now I'll ask you the instance class of data transform. You cannot able to tell. Instance class of activities, we cannot remember. Instance class of property, we can able to say, that is rule dash obj dash property. And instance class of flow action, we cannot able to say. Everything will be like an instance, right? Flow action rule, what we are creating, it's also to be stored as an instance in one class, else we cannot able to retrieve the data. So it has to be stored into one class. So where it will be stored, in which class, what's the instance class of that rule flow action? Okay, for that there will be one trick. So once you identify the PzInsKey, we can able to get it, right? Got my point? If you want to identify the instance class of data transform, we need not remember this. Instead, if we can able to get the PzInsKey of that particular rule, then I'll be getting PzInsKey of that rule like this. So based on that, I can able to identify the instance class now. If we go to the activity and if we can able to get the PzInsKey of that particular rule, or for any activity rule, if we get PzInsKey of any activity rule, we can able to directly get the instance class of that particular activity. So agree with this?
Yeah.
So ultimately the question here is how to get the PzInsKey. So what will be the PzInsKey of this particular section? What will be the PzInsKey of this particular work object ID? For work object ID, we already know. We can go to the clipboard and we can able to see in the PzInsKey column. And similarly, in the database also we can see. Let me tell you that later. Similarly, what is the PzInsKey of this one? What is the PzInsKey of this one? I mean, this one. For each and everything, as I told you, we can able to do it from the user interface only. We need not go for database and just check for the particular table. Suppose if I just want to check for the PzInsKey of the first record. Okay, if you're having limited knowledge as of now, how can we do that? We'll be going to the particular table which is connected to this class, and I'll be searching for the table in the database table, and for sure there should be one heading called PzInsKey, and there I will be identifying the PzInsKey of that. Okay, this is one thing. And the main thing is we need not go for database table for any time. All the time we can able to do it from the PRPC only. So if I can able to get the instance class of any property, sorry, if I can able to get the PzInsKey of anything, then I can able to easily identify its instance class also. So if I just getting instance class of activity, sorry, if I'm just getting PzInsKey of the activity, then based on the PzInsKey of that particular rule, activity rule, I can able to identify the instance class. No? So in interviews they will be asking you, what is the instance class of when conditions? What's the instance class of flow actions? What is the instance class of flow? So in that case, what you have to answer is, I will be simply getting the PzInsKey value of that particular thing, particular any kind of rule. Then I can able to identify the instance class. So this is how I can able to make use of the instance class. This is what you have to answer. Okay. The question here is how to get the PzInsKey. So we can able to get the PzInsKey in 3 ways. So most of the people doesn't know this. Let me tell you. So if I want to get the PzInsKey of this particular rule, this should be like in one instance, right? Then just click on Shift plus F8. If I just click on Shift plus F8, I'll be getting PzInsKey open directly. Just copy it and put it here for the comparison. So what it is showing? PzInsKey of this particular section rule, what we are discussing so far. So rule HTML section is the instance class. Based on the PzInsKey, I can able to get the instance class, and this is the rule name. So rule class, and this is the class key, and here it is showing the timestamp. So this is exactly meeting with our definition, right? That is the thing. So wherever the thing, for whatever the instant for whatever the PzInsKey you want to get, open that particular rule. So open this property, open any property, and click on Shift plus F8. Then we will be getting the PzInsKey of that rule. So the definition here is, based on the PzInsKey of that particular property, we can able to say instance classes of the property will be this one, rule obj property. If we just copy and paste it here, we can able to see all the instances. Okay, so this will be the rule class, and this will be the class key, and this will be the timestamp. For sure, version number 1 and version number 2 will not be having same timestamps. Let me show you that also. So this is for the version number 1. I think I have copied this only. So we can see both these are different. So that the last one. So this timestamp will be making the difference, and making this PzInsKey as the unique thing. So based on the PzInsKey, if we can able to get the PzInsKey, I can simply get the instance class also. One way of getting the PzInsKey is open that particular instance and click on Shift F8. For the work object IDs, we can directly check in the clipboard, and for any other rules, we should be uh, opening that rule and we should be clicking on Shift F8. Suppose if someone is asking you about the activities, what's the instance class of activities? Open that activity rule, any activity rule, and click on Shift F8. So this is the instance class for the activities. If someone is asking about the decision tables, what we'll be doing? We need not create the decision table here, and we need not again open it for the PzInsKey. Instead, we can able to go for records. So if I just click on records, I can able to see all the data segregated here. So decision table or decision tree will be under decision category. Open this, click on decision table. We'll be getting all the instances. Open any OOTB decision table rule.
Chandra, I'm not able to hear anything.
Chandra? Chandra? Hello? Chandra? Hello?
Rana, I'll call him.
Hello? Chandra? Hello? Uma, can you hear me?
Can you hear?
I think Chandra's screen is frozen and we can't see it, right?
Oh, okay.
Can you please pass him and tell him that we can't see the screen?
Yeah, we both can't hear your voice. Yeah. Whatever
Can
you
you
thought
call
of
him?
like a rule object, you from the HTML page you did some PzInsKey, right? From that onwards, we are not able to hear
Can
anything.
you please call him because he doesn't understand that we can't hear or see. Because I tried to message him, but he's not seeing any.